right. It's fun, event-filled Friday. It's about 10 to 10 at night, and here I am recording a video. That's about my life's entertainment for the last little bit anyway. Times are different now. We're just chilling out at home, and I might as well just keep these things up. My mom says I touch my beard too much. Thanks, Mom. But, I'll try. Anyway, so we were talking about fat-soluble vitamins. I'm going to break the monotony up a bit today. And I was thinking all day how to get through to people and how to come across with information that will stick. And stuff that I did, maybe not even really knowing until I was doing it or, got taught it and kind of made it into practical. Because the problem with the world right now is if I gave you a one-size-fits-all diet plan, it might not fit your tastes, your likes. I mean, I know our tastes develop over time, and when you start eating a less processed diet, your taste buds kind of change. And for instance, I've been appreciating the taste of vegetables. Not to mention, I don't really eat them that often, and when I do, they're delicious. With a little bit of butter, some salt. I'm very plain, but I'm embracing the taste. I never liked mushrooms. I never liked eggs. I didn't eat eggs till I was probably 30 or 40 years old. I hated them. Now I'll eat them sunny side up. I'll eat them scrambled. Still not at hard boiled yet, but that's okay. But yeah, your tastes change and develop, and especially when you're eating a nutrient dense diet, when you're getting the right nutrients, you're getting some good things start signaling. And there's a book by I think his name's William Schatzker, and he's a Canadian. I hope I didn't butcher his name, but he wrote a book called The Dorito Effect, and it's kind of how our flavor has changed into this trickery with your brain. But that's probably a talk for another day. Today we're going to talk about sort of what I did, and I kind of wrote down 10 commandments for me. These are mine. This is what I would, we'll talk about them each individually, but it's stuff that, you can argue all over the board about how to do these things and what to do. And, sure, I'm up for it. If anybody wants to debate or, have a conversation, I'm down, because I want to learn. And there's a lot of sides to the shape here. And it's not a one-size-fits-all, and I respect the fact for anybody trying to make a change for the better. And whether I agree with it or disagree with it, it's still, a change for the good. And it's too bad that we get our tires spin in the ice or spin in the mud for so long, because we're just not. We're told some things, and then we believe these things, and we don't challenge them, and then, you get stuck, and you sort of feel like shit because it didn't work for you. If you go on a diet, diets are designed for short term. I mean, every diet will work depending on the situation. Every diet has its positive aspects, and you just got to do what, if you're training for a marathon, you're not going to be sprinting. If you're training to be a swimmer, you're not going to be, well, obviously there's some cross training involved, but you train like you need to, and train for what benefits you. And it's the same thing with eating food. There's a difference between someone who just wants to maintain their health, someone who needs to fix something with health, somebody who needs to fix something for sporting reasons, or for, if you're in a high stress environment, you got to think about things in a little different light. So just reading a magazine article that says do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, eat this, eat this, eat this, it's not practical for most people. And it really kind of jars some heartstrings, because some people get dismayed and disappointed and let down, and they think they're failing because they can't do these things. Life is happening, and you have to adjust everything towards your own personal life. I don't know what stresses you out. I don't know how your life is. So how am I going to be, just a one size fits all? But I was thinking about it, and I kind of wrote down my 10 commandments. And before we get into them, I wrote, well, actually, I learned about this alliteration. For the book I was reading, Why We Get Sick by Ben Bickman, it's all about insulin and the effects of insulin and underestimation of insulin resistance in society and how this could be leading to all forms of metabolic disease and how all these diseases could be related. So he has an alliteration, and it makes sense to me because this is kind of where I 100% agree with it. You know, there's obviously context and nuance tied to it all, but this is it. Number one, prioritize protein. You need to eat good quality protein. Now, it's always from your BMI, which means your body mass index, your metabolic state, whether you're a man or a woman, or you're big or small. This changes. So, but everybody should prioritize protein because that is every single thing that is physical in you, from enzymes to your tissue, your bones, your blood, your hair, everything. Protein, you need it. So we're getting into that. You are what you eat. You need protein, and there's ways to do it with plant-based. You can do, like, it's about the full amino acid spectrum. So if you're getting a complete spectrum of all your essential amino acids and all your branch chains and all your good things, then you can do these things. It's not impossible. I would teeter towards the animal side of things. I would think that it's a little bit better as far as a full amino acid spectrum protein. But that's it. So prioritize protein. You get it in you. You need to get a lot. There's, like I said, there's arguments all over the board about how much do you need. There's 15 different ways from Sunday about how much you need. I tend to not measure my protein, but I'm generally probably about 1 gram per pound. I'm 185 pounds. That's a lot of protein when I eat one meal a day, but I don't get, I do just fine. So as long as I'm not losing muscle mass, and I'm kind of stuck. My body weight's kind of I went from about 225 down to 178, and now I'm kind of cruising at 185 no matter what I do. So that's perfect for me. I think I'm pretty lean. I've got I'm not losing strength. I don't feel weaker. My muscles are they feel dense. They're getting full. So that's my protein ratio right there. So I tend to eat about 1 gram of protein per pound of weight. Now, there's arguments all over what's actually needed, what's actually just enough. So, you're going to have to do some digging around and figuring that out. If you want some help, I can help you, but it's context, right? Second is carbohydrate control. Now, that doesn't mean no carb. That doesn't mean low carb. That just means where you're at with your glucose control, where you're at with your fasting insulin and your insulin spiking, how you're controlling the energy through when you're eating carbohydrates, if you can control it. Some people need to stop carbs completely. Others are, it depends on on the way you are and how you're doing, and but controlling them is key. Whether you're using them for energy for anaerobic activity and you need the sugar and you're using it all the time, you're not just storing fat because the carbs are just sitting there doing nothing in your blood and you're spiking insulin all the time. So carbohydrate control is very important. So that's also very individual. So, and then the last thing is fill with fat. You want good fat, good quality fat, and that is not seed oils. That is not vegetable oil. That is not canola oil. I will argue that these things are bad. They are not good for you. They are money makers. They are mass produced. They are volatile. And if you cut all vegetable seed, sunflower, safflower, canola, grapeseed, all these vegetable oils that aren't vegetables, they're seed oils. If you cut them out, you'll see what happens. Things will change. And there's some people believe polyunsaturated fat, which we'll get into fat and cholesterol another video, but I just wanted to say, I believe you should make up your energy balance with good fat. And I will use butter, not a shit ton, but just a little bit, and olive oil. I'll use coconut oil, and I eat animal fat. So that's kind of my calorie. I don't believe really in counting calories for me, because I find I don't have to now with the way I am. I kind of am cruising. I try and eat as much as I can till I'm full, and then I don't eat anymore. That's it. And it's a talent, and it's a tool that I've become accustomed to. It's not for everybody. Everybody can't. Like, some people like to track this stuff and track their calories, and I used to. And I used to know the fat percentages and the carb percentages and the caloric demand and the protein. But, everybody's different, and your body does metabolize things differently, and it is about timing and hormones. So that is it. Prioritize protein, carbohydrate control, fill with fat. Alliteration at its finest right there. Now, let's get into my 10 commandments. And if you can take each and every one of these things, and if you just did one, you're going to be better off. I mean, you can argue till you're blue in the face. I don't care from which camp, what side of the tracks you come from. If you do these things, you'll see differences and you'll feel better, 100%. Now, if you do them all or you do them to what level is up to you. But this is what I kind of did, and I thought about it and how I'm going to share it with you. So first and foremost, commandment number 1, eat whole food. When I say whole food, that means one ingredient and one ingredient put together for something, i.e. sauerkraut, cabbage, salt. That's sauerkraut and thyme. But if you cut, when I say whole food, it means pretty much how it comes naturally. So if it comes out of the ground, that's how you eat it. If you put it together, it's a salad kind of thing, right? So eat whole food as close to as nature intended, and you're gonna do great. There's, obviously people get sensitive, and then we can dig into the bad anti-nutrients and the good nutrients. Like there's the polyphenols and the carotenoids and the flavonoids and the lycopenes and all those good things, debatable. And but there's bad things too. There's lectins, which are proteins found in most things actually, but predominantly in vegetables and legumes. And lectins, prime example of a lectin is gluten. Gluten is a lectin, and it's hard to digest. That's kind of the Cole's Notes version of it. All right, so eat whole foods. Go into the grocery store, walk around it. Anything on the outside, you're pretty good. You know what I mean? That's kind of whole foods. I mean, if we could drink whole milk that's not pasteurized, I would be willing to try it. I wouldn't suggest it for kids, and I wouldn't suggest it if you're not used to it, and if you're not kind of in the know about it. But whole milk is good. The milk fat is kind of keeps the lactose in check. And maybe one day I'll tell you why skim milk could be more fattening than actual whole milk. And I know you probably think I'm crazy, but there is some logic behind that. All right, so that's number 1. Eat whole foods. Right? Okay, so now we've cut out, this is number 2. Eliminate processed foods. And when I say processed foods, I mean in a box, bag, or can. Now, if you read the ingredients of Campbell's soup, and we have all grown up on Campbell's soup, look at how much shit is in that can. It's not just the stuff that makes the soup. I mean, I've worked in the hospitality industry. And if you want to make soup, you start with a mirepoix, which is carrots, celery, and onions, and then you build it up from there. You add your meat stock or your broth, or boil a shit ton of vegetables, and then you have soup, and then you add things to it. That's it. There's no stabilizers. There's no preservatives. There's no, the flavor enhancers or mood enhancers. It's pretty simple. So those soups and those condensed things and all those packaged, there's so many ingredients that you don't need. And if you cut out everything that comes in a box, bag, or can, some jars, some packages, you're going to be good. You're going to be better off. You're going to be better off than you were yesterday, because, these are things that we'll do a little sidetrack here and why you should cook at home and cook your food, because you know what? You just know what's in it. That's the kind of the key. And, when you're eliminating processed foods, when you eat out, especially these fast food places, they tell you how many calories are on the menu. Yeah, whatever. They tell you that it's good for you, and, it's blah, blah, blah. We don't really know what they're doing to it. We don't know how they're preserving it and what's making it so delicious. So, I wouldn't put my money on that stuff being prime healthy. Right? So eliminating processed foods is number 2. Number 3 is we're going to argue this, I know, but this is me, and this is what I did, and this is how I feel, is eliminate grains and legumes. Now, we are going to get into the weeds a bit here about grains. And, all grains are not created equal, or are they? They're difficult to digest. So, whether we were species specifically supposed to digest grains, there's an argument. And then there's that, the Asian cultures that have grown up on rice. And, there's a place, maybe. But then it comes down to naturally processing them. So there's ways to harness the nutrition, and there's ways to maximize the problematic stuff. All you got to do is look to kidney beans and lectins. I mean, if you're not soaking your beans and you're not, making sure that they're pre-done, sprouted and soaked, you can get into some trouble. So just that being said, then there's an argument for that. I, just for personal reasons, do not eat them. I will eat rice from time to time, like pressure cooked white rice is what I would do, just because that kind of really, really gives the rice a good shit kicking, so to speak. And I mean, I wouldn't eat too much of it. I'd eat it like maybe a fistful or something. Just, once in a while, maybe I'd have some rice, but I would be from a pressure cooker. Preferably, I would stay away from brown rice because it's high in arsenic. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but, these are things that you got to take in consideration. It's not all a perfect world out there, and we've been told a lot of stuff that's, there's arguments on a lot of sides. So that's my personal take. No grains, no legumes. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you're going to have to eat some beans and some legumes. Learn how to process them properly. You can get protein, you can get full spectrum protein from mixing and matching certain foods, and it's just about learning how. You're going to have to do some work to get the full amino acid spectrum. All right, number 4, choose organic when possible. Now, another thing, people are going to say, well, it's a waste of money. You don't want to be, yeah, okay, I understand, because I used to be one of those people that were like against, why am I paying this for, whatever, they grow it right beside this and right beside that. But okay, yes, our soil is depleted, and there's another talk right there. Minerals in the soil are not what they used to be. And yes, they grow crops on top of crops and beside crops, and you don't necessarily know, but they do try to oversee it, and that includes like pesticides and certain chemicals that they can't spray to be organic. So I think if you can eliminate as many of those as possible, it's probably for the best. I mean, it's not perfect. I don't trust anything that I haven't done myself. If I grow my own vegetables, I know what's been done to them. I would, that's the only way to be 100%. The rest is kind of you're taking faith, and you got to look at a good, better, best situation, and that's kind of thing. You can go online, find out what the dirty dozen is and the clean 15, and it'll be a little bit shocking, because there's stuff that I really like and I don't eat anymore because it's not good. Celery is one of them. I know cucumbers are pretty bad, but if you peel them, that might be a little better. Tomatoes are quite chemically. And there's this thing called glyphosate. If you don't know what that is, it's Roundup, but that's the technical science term for it. And there is people out there that are studying the effects of glyphosate in the modern diet, and it's not good. And there's nothing you can say that would make that acceptable. Now, the amount and the severity of how it impacts you is, who knows? I mean, there's no way to really know this, but when you hear these people speak about it, and they're pretty adamant about how it affects things, it is not good. So, just, you don't have to really get into it, but anything that's, treated without nature intending, it's probably going to do some disruption and do some harm in some way. I mean, our bodies can tolerate a lot of things, but cumulative over time, you never know. That might be the thing that's kind of giving you that nervous tick. We don't know, right? So choose organic when possible if you can afford it. I know it's easier said than done, but I tend to try and do it as best I can. I've been trying to grow my own things. Last year we had a good crop of garlic, which was great because I love garlic. I use it a lot. And yeah, but organic is good. Okay. Number 5, eat naturally raised animals. I believe if you can get the best meat possible, and that includes fish, meat, poultry, and pork, So it's an animal in its natural environment eating the things. It's like me saying to you, we want to eat what nature and God intended. It's the same thing for them. When we're feeding them, I don't believe feedlots are good. I don't believe that they do any good for anything. I mean, I would care about my animals. I care about the well-being of their life, and feedlots don't do anything for the good. But one thing that, like natural raised animals, it's really hard, and we can go. There's a whole other talk about this now, because when you eat a ruminant animal, a ruminant is an animal with a rumen stomach, which means it has an extra stomach that can, like, the long and short of it is it can digest grass. It can digest cellulose that we cannot. It takes this energy and turns it into fat and protein for us to consume. So the ruminant animals, they have another processing plant inside them. So technically, I'm not as concerned about a corn, wheat, and soy eating cow as I would be for a corn, wheat, soy eating chicken. Because chickens, birds, and pigs, for instance, are monogastric animals like us. So if I'm telling you not to eat seed oils, I'm telling you not to eat grains and legumes. When we feed the pigs and chickens corn, wheat, and soy, theoretically, we're eating that too, because they don't have that changing stomach. That they are what they eat, and it'll be in the fat. So a whole other talk, but that's kind of my mentality. So you want to try and eat naturally raised animals, nose to tail. By nose to tail, I mean we need to include organ meats, my opinion. It's a whole other rabbit hole. They're so nutrient dense. I've been recently starting to eat beef heart from time to time, kidney. I'm not a big fan. I've really forced myself to eat this stuff. The only thing I can't do is raw liver, which I actually enjoy, which don't ask. I know it's crazy. But I make sure it's been frozen like at 20 degrees for, 24 days or something to kill off that kind of stuff. It's from a grass-fed, grass-finished, local farm. And it has to be from a good source that I trust. And that's kind of my thing. I wouldn't suggest it to anybody. I wouldn't push it on anybody, but I actually enjoy it. And, eating 1 ounce of liver that's raw a day, to me, I enjoy it. Now, when I say nose to tail, this means whole fatty fish, whole oily fish, anchovies, all of it. Sardines, all of it. You eat the bones, you eat everything. Mussels, clams, oysters, shellfish, that's nose to tail. It's a whole animal. Eggs. If you think about it this way, an egg has everything life needs, but just gets stopped short. Everything in life is in an egg. So theoretically, and you can argue, but an egg's like a super multivitamin in a package. You can even eat the shells. Yes, you can eat the eggshells. I would probably boil them and treat them first, but I'm actually doing an experiment. I got eggshells in the freezer, and I'm gonna boil them, and then I'm gonna dry them, and then I'm gonna crush them up and almost like a bone meal and add them to. We'll see what I can tolerate with that. But that'll be in the future. But yes, there's lots of calcium in it, and it's good. And nose to tail. So nose to tail, bone broth, marrow, bone marrow. That's nose to tail. That's nose to tail eating. You're eating a full, complete animal, and there's nutrition all from the brains to the kidneys. So I personally, when I can't get organs, I will supplement organs, and theoretically they're not supplements because technically they're food, just freeze dried and then put into capsules. So that's my take. That's number 5. Number 6. We need to embrace healthy animal fat. And we need to know the difference between saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. I'm going to do a video that's going to tie that in with cholesterol. But you have to understand that if we're talking, like we just spoke about what God and nature intended, and saturated fat is natural. It's not processed. It doesn't take an oil refinery to produce it. So my argument is, depending on how much, But the fat that naturally belongs in the food that we're naturally supposed to eat probably isn't bad for you. How much of it is up for debate. The quality of it is up for debate. But actual nuts and bolts fat attached to animals, think about it. It's been there since the dawn, like since we started eating meat. So I believe we should embrace them and include them. I use them a lot for my energy, and I feel great. The fat soluble vitamins, like we talked about. So, you know, if I will have extra virgin olive oil. That's another thing that, you know, there's a lot of fake olive oil out there that they just throw canola oil in there and put a little olive flavoring and call it, you know, and then they market it. There's laws and they just bypass it. So little hack here is, if you look on the bottle of an olive oil, you want to see the planted. There's a date that it's been harvested and bottled, and you want it in a dark bottle. You don't want to keep your olive oil in a light bottle, because light oxidizes fat that's not saturated. Any fat that's not solid at room temperature can be oxidized with light. So you want to keep that in a dark bottle. Coconut oil goes solid at room temperature. It's high in saturated fat. It's a good sort of balance. It's still a plant option, and you know, it's great. It holds heat, so cook with it. Avocado oil is another one. It's sort of, there's probably a lot of fake avocado oil out there. So it does cook well. It's got not a lot of taste, so you can fry with it and stuff. But you know, I would eat these at a minimum, my personal opinion, and choose, you know, tallow, butter, ghee. Ghee's great. Ghee you get all the power of butter without the milk problems. So that's it. Number 6, embrace healthy fats. Number 7, eat fermented foods. Now, it's funny because I never ever liked sauerkraut. I didn't eat Reubens. I was like, ugh, this is gross. I've been starting to take apple cider vinegar, which is fermented. It's a fermentation process, and it's great for stomach acid. It's great for digesting protein. There's a lot of info out there about like how it's good for glucose control and, you know, for fasting. But I do it because it is a fermented food. It tastes great. It works on salad. It's the best kind of vinegar. You want it with the mother, which is all the sort of the pulp, you could say, all the runoff of the fermentation process. That's the good thing. You know, the mother will help the bacteria grow. So you want to eat that. And sauerkraut is fermented. You know, there's fermented pickles out there that are great. You got to watch the cheese. Most cheese is fermented. Now, if you take cheese and naturally do the process like the old world cheeses, it ferments. Now, if you see mozzarella in the store, and this is a little tip, if you ever see citric acid or a couple chemicals without the bacterial culture, or kind of, it's the citric acid thing, because you can make mozzarella and cheese curds in a matter of seconds. And what that does is that just bypasses the fermentation process and the good bacteria process and just does the physical reaction. So you don't want that to be done in 2 seconds. You want that to be done over time. And so the old hard cheeses are really good for you. Like, I mean, it's arguable to say that Parmigiano Reggiano is, if not the healthiest cheese, but you know it has to come from Parma. You know that the process is long and it's fermented properly. It's one of the highest calcium at the same caloric value as other cheeses. So it's, you know, I tend to eat Parmesan. You know, it used to be on my pasta. Now I just sprinkle it on my salads, on my eggs, and yeah, that's a great cheese. So that's it. Eat fermented foods. I'm gonna get into some sourdough bread. Yes, I will be trying bread, but I'm gonna make it myself. I'm gonna start my sourdough as soon as I get my shelves installed. I'm gonna start my little fermentation station. And I've fermented tomatoes before. I made my own hot sauce. It's great. It's cheap. It lasts forever. This is the way they used to store food. So, you know, you can ferment anything. There's salamis and meats that have been, there's people debate whether the nitrates are okay, but They're found in the soil too. Okay, so there's arguments on different sides. I'm just trying to generalize here. So fermented foods, good, prebiotic, pre-digested. Most like the kind of philosophy with like sauerkraut and fermented vegetables, kimchi, it's already done the work, and now the good things can happen down there. So whether it's necessarily the best food the most nutritious food you'll ever eat, it's got vitamin C, it's got vitamin K, all the nutrients come out when the fermentation process happens. So go for it. And that's what I would say. There's fermented garlic, fermented honey. Try fermentation because it's easy to do. It's pretty much the thing, salt and water, pretty much. With a few little steps along the way. Sometimes it's sugar, sometimes it's water, but anyway, we can get into that later. So that's number 7. Eat fermented foods. Start eating fermented foods. Number 8, fast intermittently. And what I mean by that is not intermittent fasting. You don't have to label it. Just don't eat for a while. When I say don't eat for a while, challenge yourself. You don't have to be 16:8, 18:4, 18:6, or 24. You don't have to be OMAD. You just have to skip a meal from time to time. Preferably the first or the last one, so that you eat in a window. So that would include no snacking. Like, try to limit the snacking. And if you got a snack in that window. When you start eating, whatever. When you stop eating, don't eat anything until you start eating again. Whatever that time is. Arguments all over the table about what's the best. I believe you got to find it out for yourself. I think there is something to be said about pushing the lines of hunger and pushing yourself into all these like positive pathways that happen. I mean, we're going to get a little, like, I'm going to mention some things here. You don't have to understand them, but the sirtuin activation, autophagy, NRF2, AMPK, these are all pathways that are either building or repairing or gene activating. And when your hormones are working properly and everything's on cruise control, your body just gets into a better rhythm, and cortisol will suppress, your adrenaline gets regulated, your growth hormone can come and do its thing. So it helps your circadian rhythm, and it doesn't take much. And if you're struggling to skip a meal, I would argue to say that you've got some issues metabolically that you have to figure out, because there's mechanisms at play there that you should be able to skip a meal with ease, no problem. We all do it. Like, when you go to bed and you wake up in the morning, you've just done a fast. I mean, that's 6, 7, 8 hours, no problem. Right there, all you got to do is another 4, you're 12 hours. You skip breakfast, you're easily at 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Do that once or twice a week to start with, and then just build from there. And once your hunger signals start getting in check, you start becoming control. You start controlling when you eat and how much you eat, and you start to change. And I think it's good for you. And whether 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day, or 1 meal a day, I think it's all about you and what works for you and what you enjoy. Whether you eat breakfast and lunch, whether you eat lunch and dinner, you got to try this stuff out, and you got to figure out the best way. But I do think giving your body a chance to not be eating or digesting is a good thing. So fast intermittently. And like every religious culture at one point has a celebratory fast and feast. So it's been done for a long time. This is not new. We're just kind of getting back into it. And I think with all the mayhem of fast food and skip the dish and Uber Eats, fasting is kind of the last thing on your mind. But personal experience, it's empowering and it's freedom, because I'm not tied down to my schedule for food. I can eat when it's convenient, and I can eat later always, which is nice. It's a great thing. And I mean, I would gauge my physical appearance on how nourished I am, and I don't think I'm doing bad. My skin is good. I'm feeling great. My muscles are full, and that's kind of all you need. I'm never hungry, but I'm also never full. So I could eat a crap ton in one meal. I usually have to space it out like over an hour. So I'll start eating, I'll do my bone broth, and then I'll start maybe having a little bit of cheese, which I gotta watch because I can eat a lot of it, and that's a lot of calories, but it's okay. I'll eat some cheese, and then I'll have my sauerkraut, and then I'll have some olives, and then maybe a little cold cut meat, prosciutto. Then I'll get into my steak or my main protein, and put some eggs on it, and then I'll have a salad. Like it's an event, and I take about an hour and a half to eat, and I eat a lot of food, but in 1 hour compared to 3 or 4 or 5, 6 meals a day, I don't even touch the calorie like that I would if I wasn't fasting. Now that's number 8. So fast intermittently. All these things we could probably do a video on, but this is kind of my thing that I've done, and I didn't even realize that I was doing these things, but I just wrote them down to talk about them. So number 9, start moving. Do something. Do something physical. Do something out of your wheelhouse. Do something, instead of taking the elevator, take the stairs every day. Instead of, just getting up and starting coffee, do some meditation. Try yoga. Do 30 days of yoga. Go for a walk 3 times a day for 10 minutes. Start something. Start some high intensity interval training, which is quick and easy. Start Tabata, which is like 20-second bursts, 10-second break, 20-second bursts. These things can be done without you even realizing that you're doing them. And it does amazing things for everything, for your nervous system, for your blood, for your brain, for your metabolic function and your metabolic health, immune health. So there's no excuse. And I know we've all been indoors and isolated, but that's kind of a good time to do that. Like, go for a walk, do some stretching against the wall, do some yoga. Yoga's beautiful. Learn how to breathe. Breath work. There's Wim Hof out there, and he's not full of crap. Like, this stuff actually can impact your health. Start something. Do something. And, even, hey, if you're always on social media, read a book. Listen to an audiobook. Learn to meditate. Do something. Start moving. That's number 9. We're just going to leave it at that. Now, how intense and how well you want to do depends on what your goals are. You need to figure out why you're doing it. And if you're doing it just to be healthy, then you don't have to do much. You just have to start. Okay? So number 10, probably the most important thing. For years of my life, I completely disregarded and thought this was a bunch of hokey bullshit until I got a little older, and I've been working on it, is number 10, sleep well. Whatever it takes to sleep well, do it. If you can't sleep, sleep in. Get sleep. Obviously, circadian rhythm comes into effect, and that's something we can talk about later. But everything good happens when you're asleep. And when we're asleep, we go through phases. We go through waves. So there's 3 or 4 different waves of sleep, and you need them all in different amounts and at different times. And you cycle it. And when you get disrupted, those cycles break. And that does weird things to yourself. Like, you don't even know what's going on. And I'm telling you, if you have a great night's sleep, the next day is better. Always. And if you have a great night's sleep, things just are better the next day. If you have a shitty sleep, you'll start to figure out that these things you get irritable, and all the good things happen when you're sleeping. When you're metabolically losing fat, you're breathing it out your lungs. It happens when you're sleeping. Yes, truth. Unbelievable, hey? So sleep is so important to all aspects of you. Try not to eat as close to bedtime as possible. That might disrupt a little bit of sleeping patterns, but we'll get into this stuff. And sleep, you start the process. I know people's lives have shift work, and it makes it tough. It's hard. That's why people are jet lagged, because their circadian rhythms are completely out of whack. If you follow the sun, get sun in your eyes in the morning, it's a good thing. That sets your hormones and your circadian clock into motion. And at night, calm down the blue light. Try not to watch TV or watch your phone late at night. You'll find that these things happen. Like, just calm the light down, get into a process, you'll be amazed at what happens. Everything works better when you've slept well. And now we'll take a deep dive into sleep, but there's research out there that's saying you need way more sleep than you probably think you're getting, or that you think you need, because whether adults need 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, quality of sleep matters more. And whatever it takes to get more comfortable, to get into a zone, whether you gotta read a book to fall asleep, and just little practices, try and not to listen to the news, right? Like, I mean, I know I've been stressed out with all the news and information out there. It's hard not to get captivated and not get brought into it. It angers me. But, try and stop that. Stop the added stress. If you're going to watch TV, watch a comedy, watch something lighthearted, watch something that doesn't really make you think, or read a book or something. Just these little things can help you get into it. I mean, melatonin function, and when your signals are getting fired properly, your sleep gets better, and your sleep gets, there's things that we can do. There's things that are problematic, like sleep apnea, which vitamin D actually helps, by the way. But that's it. Those are my 10 commandments, okay? So number 1, eat whole food. Number 2, eliminate processed foods. Number 3, eliminate grains and legumes. Number 4, choose organic when possible. Number 5, eat naturally raised animals, nose to tail. Number 6, embrace healthy animal fats. Number 7, eat fermented foods. Number 8, fast intermittently. Number 9, start moving, do something. Number 10, sleep well. And that is it, my friends. My 10 commandments. Yeah, I look forward to our next talk, and maybe we'll get back into the vitamins. But yeah, and don't forget to prioritize protein, control carbohydrates, and fill up with fat. Stay strong.